Hello and good evening, listeners. You have tuned into the Pune station of All India Radio, and this is our weekly English program, Kaleidoscope. Listeners, today we have an enthusiastic and passionate storyteller, Chetan Shetty, in our studio. We will be listening to his short story, Mullah Nasruddin, in today's times. Over to Chetan Shetty.
The relevance of Mullah Nasruddin in today's times. Many of you might have read about the adventures of Mullah Nasruddin in Tinkle comics. According to Wikipedia, Nasruddin or Nasruddin Hojja or Mullah Nasruddin Hojja, many names that he is called by, was born in 1208 and died in 1285. He was born in Sivri Hisar, which is in the present-day Turkey. He is considered a philosopher, Sufi, a wise man, remembered for his funny stories and anecdotes. He appears in over 1,000 stories and sometimes witty, sometimes wise, but often a fool or the butt of a joke. A Nasruddin story usually has subtle humor and a pedagogic nature, which means it teaches you something. The International Nasruddin Hojja Festival is celebrated between 5th and 10th July in his hometown every year, even till today. And the UNESCO declared 1996-97 as the International Nasruddin Year. You may have heard many stories of Mullah Nasruddin, but probably the most famous story about Mullah Nasruddin is the one about him searching for keys under the lamppost. I'm sure you have all heard it 1,000,000 times. But let me repeat it for those who don't remember. One day, Mullah Nasruddin was on all his fours under a lamppost outside his home, searching for something. As he was searching for a long time, many of his neighbors came out to ask him what happened. The mullah told them that he had lost his keys. So many of his neighbors joined him in searching for the keys. But after they were sure that they have covered every inch of the area under the lamppost, they asked him, "Mullah, are you certain you lost the keys here?" And Mullah said, "No. They fell out of my pocket when I was carrying a box in the basement of my house." "Oh my God," said his neighbors. "Then why are you searching here and making all of us search here?" And Mullah said, "You see, there is no light in my basement, but here under the lamppost there is so much light, so I thought it would be much better to search here." Now that is a simple story about Mullah Nasruddin. And even if you did not laugh, I'm sure it brought a smile to your face. But the whole point of Mullah Nasruddin's stories is to highlight to us the fool within ourselves. Aren't each of us doing very foolish things every day? So is Mullah Nasruddin a fool? Or is he making a joke on himself to show us what fools we are being? I can now take so many stories of Mullah Nasruddin and place them in contemporary times because these stories are timeless. And I am now going to present you a series of instances which are almost real. They almost really happened. My wife Sunita is a visiting professor at a business school where she teaches leadership. And she uses the case study method. She circulates the case in advance and expects her students to have read the case before they come to class. I often joke with her and say that that's where the phrase great expectations came from. While it requires a lot of preparation on the part of the students, I can vouch for the fact that it requires a lot of preparation on the teacher's part too. Sunita also slogs for hours preparing for each class. Now, a couple of weeks ago, there was an occasion where she was not prepared for the class. She was so busy taking care of our neighbor who was ill, going to the hospital back and forth, that she had just not found the time to prepare. Nervously, she started her online class and then, with a very authoritative voice, she asked the class, "How many of you have read the case study for today?" As expected, very few students raised their hands. Sunita yelled at the class, "How dare you come unprepared to my class? I'm not going to discuss this case study. You will have to do this on your own. Use the rest of this class to read the case study. I will see you next week. and you had better have read the case study for next week. Saying that, she logged off and heaved a sigh of relief. As it so happened, the next week too she was busy. She had so many classes, she had to do a book review, and then she had to do a storytelling. She had no time to prepare for the next class too. She was very nervous this time. What will I do? This week when she logged on and she said, "So has everybody read the case study?" The whole class said, "Yes, ma'am." Now what to do? Then she asked, "But have you understood the issue?" Because they had been yelled at the previous week, all the students started speaking at the same time, giving her the facts, giving her their opinion, and all the extra reading, trying to impress the professor. Sunita shouted back at them, "Do you guys think you are so smart that you know everything? You think you know more than the teacher? Then you don't need me to discuss the case with you. Manage it by yourselves." And she logged off and took a deep breath. Chalo, one more time she managed to get away. But now to compound her bad luck, she didn't have time for the third weekend running. And she had spent too much time on other things and not found time for class. So she was unprepared for class yet again. This time, her class had colluded with each other. And they decided to keep the professor happy. Half of them would say that they have read and understood the case. And the other half would say they have read, but they have not fully understood the case. So when Sunita got online and she asked her usual questions, when she got this response, for a moment she was foxed. How do I get out of this? And then a brainwave struck her and she said, "Oh, very good, very good. Now I want all those who have understood to explain the case to those who have not understood, and I will see you next week." And she logged off again. Now friends, like I told you, this was almost true. This didn't happen. But I'm just telling you, this is really a Mullah Nasruddin story, but I have placed it in contemporary times to bring out the point that his stories are so relevant till today. Mullah Nasruddin is recognized right from Indonesia to Morocco, and everybody claims him to be their own. And he goes by different names, but no matter what the name, what the language is, the stories are all about a wise fool, showing a mirror to society, begging us to reflect on our own ways through simple everyday anecdotes. Now, here's another example. Now, in our storyteller group, we have a friend called Somnath Sanganeria. He's an absolute vegetarian. From the very first time that I saw Somnath, I was drawn to him as he exuded a certain serenity and joyfulness. So I looked for the first occasion to engage with him and I asked him, "Somnath, I find such an inner radiance coming from you. What is the secret of this charm that you have?" And Somnath said very humbly, "Oh, I'm not even aware that I possess such qualities. But if you say so, it must be because I have followed a strict vegetarian diet all my life. I strongly believe in the sanctity of all life, human or animal. All life is sacred and must be protected. And I propagate this message to all." Then he looked at me and maybe he felt compelled to give me a compliment in return. And he said, "I too have sensed a great wisdom in you. You too have an aura about you. I feel a great kinship with you. Please tell me that you too value animal life as much as I do." Without hesitation, I told Somnath, "Yes, of course. I owe my life to a fish." Somnath was so thrilled to hear that, he immediately called his wife and said, Pooja, please come here and meet this blessed soul who shares our respect for animal life. In fact, interestingly, he says a fish saved his life." Now, Pooja is a little more discerning than her easily impressed husband. And she asked me, "Oh, that's very interesting. But how can you say that a fish saved your life?" And I told her most proudly that once I went on a long trek and I got lost in the woods. Soon all my food got over and I was starving. And in that situation, I managed to catch a fish and I ate it and it saved my life. Pooja has never spoken to me since that day again. Now, naturally, again, I'm just joking, my friends. But this is yet another story of Mullah Nasruddin. Then, here's the last one that I will tell you. Once, one of our friends from Singapore was visiting. Her name is Kala. And when she was here, she stayed with us. And we had a wonderful time talking in the evenings, having dinner, chatting, exchanging stories. Now, one of those evenings, Sunita and I had to go out for a wedding. It was a cousin's child's wedding, it was my nephew's wedding. So it was, after all in India, we always say friends and family. There nobody counts who attends a wedding. If more people attend, they feel more blessed. So we told Kala, please join us, please come for the wedding. And Kala said, no, how can I come? I have not been invited. No, we insisted, no Kala, please come. It's after all my nephew's wedding, I'm sure you can come. Then Kala said, I brought some nice saris, so I have saris, but I don't have any jewelry. How can I go for a wedding without jewelry? I told her, what's the problem? Sunita's got so much jewelry lying in her cupboard. Please, you can use some of it. It will not matter at all. Please use that jewelry and come. So Kala finally consented and she came with us to the wedding. As soon as we arrived at the wedding venue, my uncle was standing at the door with folded hands to welcome all the guests. And I went up to him and greeted him and gave him a hug and told him, Mama, I want you to meet my friend Kala. She has come all the way from Singapore. But the jewelry she's wearing, no, that is Sunita's. As soon as we passed my mama and went ahead, Kala tugged at my sleeve and said, Chetan, don't tell everybody that I'm wearing Sunita's jewelry. It makes me feel very awkward. Don't tell everybody that this is Sunita's jewelry. Let them believe that it is mine. I said, I'm so sorry, Kala. I'm so sorry. So then we reached the side near the stage. At the foot of the stage, my cousin and his wife were standing to greet all the guests. So I gave him a big hug. I said namaste to everybody. And then I introduced Kala to them. I said, Rohit, see, this is my friend Kala. She's come all the way from Singapore. And that jewelry she's wearing, no, it's her own. Then Kala pulled my hand and said, Chetan, this is so embarrassing. Why are you telling everybody about my jewelry? Just don't talk about it. Don't mention it. I said, Kala, I'm so sorry because I made a mistake with Mamaji. I thought I should correct it when I introduced you to Rohit. So that's why I just made a mention. But I'll not mention it. Then we went up on stage to greet my niece and her husband. And when we went there, I introduced Kala once again. I said, see, this is my friend Kala. She's come all the way from Singapore. And her jewelry, don't talk about it. It is not to be mentioned. As you can guess, Kala has never come to stay with me again. So, my dear friends, this is yet another example of a Mullah Nasruddin story set in modern times. Because this wisdom is so contemporary and what messages he's trying to give us apply even today. So, to quote a line from Mullah Nasruddin, the truth is something I've never been guilty of speaking. But it is through the stories of Mullah Nasruddin that I try to remind myself that it is wise to be foolish and quite foolish to be wise. Many great people have said, stay hungry, stay foolish.
So listeners, that was Chetan Shetty with his short story Mullah Nasruddin in Today's Times. Hope you enjoyed listening to him. We will be back next Wednesday with another exciting program. Until then, thanks for listening and stay tuned as our next program follows.